Hello, hello. We are kicking off this live session, our Happy at Home session for April the 6th. Welcome. We are going to be hanging out and diving into another fun scrapbooking, crafty related topic today. If you're here, if you just want to let me know in the comments that everything is working, maybe let me know where you're here from, where you're joining me from. That would be awesome. My name is Alice Bull, and I run the Scrap Happy membership group at scraphappy.org. And I'm so glad that you're joining me for this little bit of creativity on the internet. Yesterday was so fun. We played with the Decofoil Transfer Gel Duo from Decofoil Thermoweb, and this stuff was awesome. Now, I love this Decofoil gel. You can use it with a stencil, you rub it through the stencil, and then it allows you to add your foil in two different ways. And so we played with that yesterday. I had never tried it before. So, it's like, ooh, how is this going to go? How is this going to go on a live show? But it turned out great. In fact, it turned out so good. So I'm going to just show you a little peek of what we did yesterday before we kick off today's topic, because it kind of leads into that, right? Debbie says it's all good. She's here in New Jersey. Wynell is saying hello, good afternoon from San Angelo, Texas. She says the picture, our sound are great. And I think today my proper camera is working. Hopefully it'll stay working because it works so much better. So here we go. Yesterday, this Decofoil gel. Now, one thing that you need to know is that it needs about an hour to dry. So I had prepped a whole bunch of different backgrounds and papers with the gel ahead of time. But we also explored a few different questions. We wanted to look at do other types of foils work with it? How thick does it have to be? How thin can it be? What kinds of applicators can you use? Hello, Cheryl. Hello, Jackie. Jackie says, yippee, a triple dose of Alice today. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you sound as excited about that. I'm so excited to be hanging out. These sessions, seriously, are so much fun. Okay, so we started with applying the Decofoil through a stencil. I had done this Starburst one. This is a Catherine Pooler one. And look at how shiny and fun that is. I don't think I even turned my studio lights on. Let's see here. Are they going to turn on? Maybe I'll get extra shine from them. So yeah, look how shiny they are. So fun. And I just love the cool foils. Like, if you haven't really looked at the foils that you can get nowadays, like, look at this cool color. Like, it's pink, it's orange, it's yellow, and it kind of ombres into the other ones. It's so cool. So this is just like a regular, as flat as possible. And you can actually see some of the texture through the foil. This one I put through a laminator. And then, you know how when you foil, if you've ever foiled or seen somebody foil, you pull off a sheet and you're like, well, that looks like a lot of beautiful color there. What do you do with the leftovers? Like, is there any way to use that? Well, we tested that too. So I took some of the Decofoil, I used a little dauber to swipe it across a paper, and then I was able to create this super fun card that allows me to use the leftovers. Now, one of the things that you end up with is that all the white parts were still sticky. And so we just tried playing, and we put a little bit of embossing powder over that, melted the embossing powder. I'm gonna have a cord in front of my face here. I've got it like just kind of barely taped out of the way. It's a little precarious. We had some pretty major tech stuff die on me, so we're working with it until the new stuff arrives. Yeah, so I was able to melt the embossing powder, and some of it is on the foil, which, isn't ideal, but like, it looks so textural. It has so much texture. It's so pretty. I'd be happy to turn that into a card. There's the two. And, what are you going to do with this otherwise? You're just going to throw in the garbage? This is way better. Way better, right? Is that not way better? I did make another one, and I used some gold foil. And I actually used just the leftovers. So you can kind of see a little bit of how the gold foil is pieced together a little bit. It looks like really not that smooth. And part of that is just because I had used the gold foil and other stuff, and I just took the leftovers and used that to put it on there. And so I think that was a good way to use up some extra of that foil. I'm kind of frugal. I have this frugalness to me. Like, I want to buy all the good things, so I'm not cheap, right? But I also want to use up the good stuff that I have, so that's frugal, right? Like, that's the difference, cheap versus frugal. I'm willing to pay for good stuff, but I want to be able to use it up. We also tested the Decofoil to see how it would work if you don't use a laminator. So with this gel, it says you can use it two ways. You can use it with heat or without. If you're not using it with heat, you're using it with pressure. And so you can run it through a manual die cut machine, so Big Shot or a Gemini machine, which is what I have right here. So I applied the foil. I applied it in little strips so that it was going across those little clouds. Like, isn't it pretty? Oh my gosh. Like, seriously, I could just sit here and like turn it so that it's all shiny, and it's like, I love it. Yeah, and I think one of the things that you have to learn when you use foil is that it's going to be imperfect. There are going to be little sections that don't work out right. There are going to be things that look not quite perfect, but I'm making this. My hand is part of this. This is part of me. It's not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. Don't tell my kids. They think I'm totally perfect. But yeah, so it's really fun. Foil is really fun when you use it on different colors, like the blue paper that I've used here, the black paper that I used here. This one we also tried layering just a really thin layer on to this through the stencil. So I just used a little piece of foam on here, and we layered really thin. And I'm like, how thick does it have to be? And so with the thin one, what I found is that you get these little imperfect layers. So some of the little pieces didn't stick as well. Let's see, can I convince it to show you up close? So you can see the imperfections on the colors, but you can also see like how pretty that foil is. It's called cracked glass or something. Mirrored cracked glass rainbow, or I don't know, something like that. It was crazy. And yeah, so that was really fun too, to see. Like, if you apply it really thin, you're not going to get that full perfection. On comparison, if you're applying it a little thicker through a stencil, you can get a much smoother, crisper look. And here is this one, and let me bring it right into you and show you just how gorgeous this is, right? These are the little crowns that were from the stencil that we gave away as a finisher's prize during one of our load challenge. It was based on the Royals, so I had custom stencils, little 6x6 stencils made from a shop called Scrapping Reflections. So beautiful. And I used that rainbow cracked glass, cracked mirror, something like that. And I'm just obsessed. Like, that is so pretty. But then I had that extra little piece of foil left over, right? I had that extra piece of foil. I'm like, well, let's try it again. I rubbed the foil over top of the paper, and I not rubbed the foil over top of the paper. What was I thinking? I used some more of the Decofoil. I rubbed it all across here lightly with my little sponge dauber. And like, normally when you're using this stuff, you're using a palette knife, right? Through a stencil or something. But I took that whole sheet and applied it to here. And instead of peeling it off, which I totally could have done, I just left it on there. And so now the black ones aren't sticky. I didn't have to apply embossing powder. The black around the edge feels a little sticky, but not very much actually, because I use so little glue. And that is beautiful, right? 2 for 1. Did the 2 for 1. I got a fabulous effect, and I'm in love. Also, I had done another one with this blue, yellow, green, emerald watercolor, whatever they called this foil, and through that buffalo check stencil, done really light. It's awesome. And you'll notice that sometimes there's like a weird color in the middle of something. So this square right here, if we just look at this square, you'll notice there's like a weird shape in the middle of the square. Can we get you to, oh, there we go. You can see it. So that weird shape is actually a piece of a leaf from the leftover piece of this one. That is so gorgeous. We're going to be looking at this one more in a minute. So yeah, I used leftovers and then I filled in more where there was gaps, and it's gorgeous. I had done one with bunnies with a stencil. This one kind of turned into a hot mess. Not in love with it, but I like the gold champagne kind of foil. But I did another one that was a little thicker. Now, there are areas that are messy because I had to lay the stencil down a couple times to get the coverage. But I think in the end, it still turned out good enough that I can use this. It's pretty dang cute with the little golden bunnies. And I kept the other one because I thought, okay, I don't love fussy cutting. That is not a big secret. But I might fussy cut out a couple of these. I can pop them up because how cute would that be? And then I did this one. I wanted to try it on 12 by 12. Now, I don't have a Mink machine. I don't have a wider laminator. So I can't run it through a laminator. It's not going to fit through my Gemini. Definitely not through my Big Shot. So what do you do with that 12 by 12 paper? Well, I stenciled a little bit in the corner and a little bit in the corner, and I put the foil on top, and then I used pressure on top of that to provide my own pressure. Now, I didn't have great tools available at the time. I was literally taking my container and just rubbing it on top because, yep, I'm crazy. I know. Who doesn't love a twofer, right? They came out great. I know. I love it. You can also fussy cut the bunnies, says Cheryl. There you go. We're on the same wavelength. If I'm on the same wavelength as Cheryl, I will take that. Cheryl is an amazing scrapbooker. So I love how this turned out. I used a foil that has like a rainbow oil slick effect. Like here it is. Like, oh, you see the oil slick effect on it? Oh, it's so pretty. And yeah, and that transferred to here. One thing that I thought was a good tip is that this is really good if you're going to 12 by 12 paper to like allow the imperfections in. With the chicken wire, you can see like it's not full coverage, and I didn't even fill in the stencil with full coverage, right? I left gaps, I left room for imperfection so that when I applied the foil, it also being imperfect doesn't really matter. It doesn't wreck it, right? If you had something that you wanted to have super perfect, applying it to your 12 by 12 sheet probably is not going to be the easiest way to do that. And I'll show you what I mean. Because I did this one here, this a chevron that is done with that rainbow cracked glass or whatever it's called. And it is imperfect too. It looks almost great. Like it's almost great. I do have a little bit of mess to clean up on the side. I'm going to try a sanding eraser. That should work. And then, but there's little imperfections in the actual chevrons in places. Maybe where the transfer gel didn't dry like super smooth, where maybe I didn't spread it like super smooth. Now, I do have some new tools coming, and so we might try this later this month. My friend April ordered me up a couple of fun tools to try for smoothing it across my stencils, and so we might try and revisit that later. But I really like how this turned out anyways. I'm totally pumped to use this as a scrapbook page. And of course, get the 2-for-1. So I turned that into a card. And I did peel this one off, so I didn't leave that plastic film on there. I did peel it off. And then I used some black blue type embossing powder in the spaces that were still sticky because the little black chevron lines were still sticky because it was just the glue. It doesn't have the foil applied on top of it to kind of cover up the stickiness. So I just used the embossing powder there. And it's imperfect too. Like it has those imperfections. Sophia says imperfections, the hand of the artist. It shows it's not manufactured and it's handmade in the best sense of the word. in my opinion. I love it. I love it. That is exactly right, right? We want this to, you know, we could go out and buy cards if we wanted to buy a card. We could go out and pay for those, but we've bought the stuff so that we can make it ourselves and make it the way we want it, right? And even when I'm using this foil, I'm deciding how I'm laying down the foil. I decided I wanted the rainbow ombre in this direction. I decided the way I wanted this to turn out. I decided the color to put on those chevrons when I made it. So we get a lot of input and choices when we're exercising our own creativity. So that was yesterday. If you missed that, you can check out the replay on the Happy at Home playlist that I have here on the Scrap Happy channel. We've had a lot of fun so far this month, and we're just kind of kicking things off. So it's really fun. Yeah, the chevron looks like a specialty paper that you'd get in a collection. It's gorgeous. Exactly. It's so great. So today, because we had so much fun with that yesterday, and of course, my next thought is, what if we did foiling with layered stencils? Wouldn't that be fun? And I thought, great, that's what we'll do today. We're going to play with some layered stencils and make some fun designs. Now, layered stencils are something that I was introduced to last year. I had taken, I think right before the Happy at Home, I had taken some classes with the Crop and Create. So Crop and Create came out, and there was one, and it was about card making, I think. And then we got all of these super fun layered stencils. Gina K had some, Pink Fresh had some. Did we get some from Alta New at the same time too? And it just seemed like that's what I was seeing everywhere, layered stencils. And so what do I mean by a layered stencil? I think we're more familiar with it through stamping, right? Multi-step stamping. So you have an outline of a flower, and then you fill in part of the flower, and then you fill in part of the flower to make your full flower. With stencils, they work the same way. So you have part of your image, and then you have another stencil that fills in another part of the image. And then you have another stencil that fills in part of the image. So you can just apply your color to that one layer, and then they all build up to make a beautiful image. So last year, I don't have the layout. I couldn't find the layout quickly. I did put some things away, which is great until I want to pull things out. I'm like, where did I put that away? Oh, it's probably in my friend's book, actually. So, let's have a look really quick, because I made a super fun layout, and I'm thinking it's in my friend's book, because it was a friend's. Okay, no, I must have pulled it back out. Like, I've had it out like so many times because I've had so much fun with it. It's not in there. Okay. Nope. So with the layered stencils, I played with them a little bit last year. So if you go back through the playlist, you will see other stenciling videos. Some of them are layered stenciling. And I just thought I'd show you a couple things that we did last year, pages that I haven't used yet, because I go through phases where I make stuff, and I go through phases where I scrapbook stuff. And I think both of these go hand in hand with my creativity. Sometimes I just want to play, and sometimes I'm making pages. So I don't judge if I haven't used it right away, because it's coming, especially if I love it. It's coming. Maybe I'm hoarding it a little bit, but it's coming. Okay, so let me show you right here. Yes, yay, okay. Yay, the camera's working today. Oh, and it's turned a little bit. Let's see if we can straighten it out a little. It's the cord is like as short as it can be. I'm like, need a longer cord. Anyway, so this is one that I did with layered stencils last year, and you can see how I've done the light teal in the floral leaves, and then there's a darker teal, same color, just applied heavier, right? I've got pink and another pink. I've got yellows. And then in the center of all the flowers, the little detail shots on the flowers, I actually rubbed some Nuvo paste to hit the shiny centers that you can see kind of reflecting on there right now. And it's just so gorgeous. Now this stencil is one that is called seamless. So a seamless stencil is one that you can line it up and then you can line it up again, and it's just going to make this nice continuous pattern. A little pain for 12 by 12, I'm going to tell you, because you get your seam here and your seam here. They're not like 100% seamless. You can see them, but are you looking that hard? Who cares, right? But you have to do that little bit. Unless I cut this down and I like made it like more square. Vicky says that was my favorite. I know, right? It's so pretty. It makes gorgeous cards. This one is designed more for those, what are those thin, tall, slimline cards. It's designed more for slimline cards. And so, but that's going to make a beautiful page when I finally get to it. Maybe during load this month, right? I can get to it in our next load. So beautiful. This one here, this one is like one of my all-time favorites. That's why I haven't used it, because I'm just like hoarding it. It's so pretty. You know, does that happen to you? Do you make something and you're like, oh, I can't even. Sometimes on scrapbook paper, I'll be so in love with it. I've actually just slipped a favorite piece of scrapbook paper into an album and just like had it in my album because I just loved it too much to even use it, but I wanted it saved. So now it's like saved in my album. I'm like, whatever. You know, that's not the worst thing that could happen. This one I loved so much. And it is all of the little pieces. Oh yeah, Cheryl says, oh, I'd make a scrapbook page with that. You could cover up the seams with embellishments, right? Like the seams. This one, you can't. You'd have to look pretty hard to see my seams. I did good on this. But the layers really blend really nice together. So I've done some green leaves, some bluish leaves, like some aqua teal leaves. I've got some pink flowers. I did the centers of the flowers with some Nuvo paste. This is the Nuvo Glacier paste. I use that to accent the centers. And then these little viney leaves that are kind of blue, I also use the Nuvo paste for that. Now this is not the pink that I use because this one is a light pink. There is a dark pink, that's the centers, but anyways, just look how gorgeous that is. So pretty. So pretty. Yeah. Sophia, Cheryl says you should make a selfie page. Right. Oh. I love the cascading from the top. Sophia says, you know, I haven't ever done that with a paper, but now I'm considering it. Yeah, like just putting the paper in your book, right? It's like, I'm just gonna save it. This is too pretty. And that's totally fine. I do love this. Now, I think when you think about layered stencils, a lot of times they're coming at us from card making. And you know, I'm not really a card maker. I make cards, but I'm not a card maker. I am a scrapbooker. So cards are a learning base. They're where I learn the fun new techniques so that I can bring those into my scrapbooking. And so then you have to bring them into your scrapbooking, right? So here's a page that I did during the February Load Challenge. It was inspired by the TV show Friends. And this day was based on Joey. And it was, how you doing? So the question was, how are you doing right now? And use a catchphrase. And so for this one, I created little corners like here and here to set my layout on, right? So I've got this big square base in the middle. I've got my journaling behind a giant pocket so that I could talk about my friend and me hanging out together. I've got this little saying on here that says, I will drink coffee here or there. I will drink coffee anywhere. And, you know, anytime you kind of reference something from Dr. Seuss, it's going to be fun, right? Coffee is a hug. Love yourself as much as you love coffee. Coffee is my best friend. So anyways, so I have this lovely paper and I picked some ink colors that matched like so perfectly with these other papers. And I was able to use this little floral stencil. Like, I almost wish I'd done it out a little bit further, but I think it's fine. But look at how soft and subtle, and what a nice little bit of background that adds to this page. Would the page be nice without it? Sure. It'd be beautiful. It is beautiful. But that just makes it like this extra little bit, right? Okay, so you're sold. Layered stencils. They're your jam, right? That's fun. So I thought we would look at a couple of them. That's not the one. I have two that I've pulled out for today, and if we have time, we could do more, but knowing me, I'm talking too much. So I was just so excited. This foiling has been great. So here is one that I had done with the stencil. Now, if you look really close, are we going to look really close? We'll look. We'll look really close. You can see there was a little bit of bleed of the deco foil. So it bled a little through my stencil, which is slightly imperfect. Now, I'm going to tell you, those little imperfections, they bother me. They do. But also, I can live with them. Because when I fill in the rest of this design, your eye is not going to go to that. You're just going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Cheryl says the little cups at the bottom. Right? Right? Look at those. So cute, right? Just the little tiny little peas. I wouldn't say I'm the greatest person when it comes to embellishing. I tend to like really crazy backgrounds, and then I don't need very many embellishments. So if you're like scared of embellishments, just let your background paper do all the work for you, and then you don't need very many embellishments. Just saying. That's one way. Actually, one day we are going to talk about A-side, B-side. Because I did a class for that last year, and it was like, I've had so many discussions about that. So I wrote that down. We're definitely going to talk about that during one of our sessions. Okay, so let's have a look at these layered stencils. I think the Pink Fresh ones are fantastic. Fantastic. So this one's from Pink Fresh. I picked this up at a scrapbook store here in Canada, and yes, it cost me $21.50. It's kind of a lot, right? That's kind of a lot. So why would I pay that for a stencil, right? I love the fact that you can layer it. You can use the different layers kind of by themselves or together. And they give you a lot of versatility. Sometimes. This one, because of the way that it is, it's definitely versatile with the leaves, right? You can use just a few of the leaves, just pick some in the middle and just use those, or you can do the whole stencil set. Now I did this layer right here, and I'm just gonna line it up the way that I did. So for this, I didn't use a piece of paper that is the exact size as the stencil, which is totally fine, but I did line up one corner so that one corner matched. And you'll see it doesn't go to the edge anyways. You can see where the paper ends and my paper lines up there. So, you know, it's perfect. My paper here is 4-inch strip. So this is technically, I think, 4 1/4 or something, but a 4-inch strip. And it's going to be a little, like the whole design is going to be a little narrower. So it would fit down the 4-inch strip, but I'm going to end up cutting off a little piece over there, which is going to be fine. So yeah, I've got it lined up in that corner. Now, when I add the other layers, one of the biggest things is figuring out, does the stencil go like this or does the stencil go like this, right? You got to know which way they go. But, you know, if you look at the design and if you kind of lay them over top, you can kind of see, are they going to fill in spaces or are they going to go directly on top of other things? Does it go like this? Does it go like this? Now, some of the stencils actually have markings on them, and this one doesn't. And I have to tell you, so here, when I layer it over, do you see how you can't see any of that stencil underneath? We know that this is the right way. So actually, I'm going to grab a Sharpie right now, just for the sake of working with it. I'm going to put a little dot in those corners, and that will help me know which spot to line up when I'm working. And then I'm going to put this one over top, and let's see if I can fill in. Is that the right one? Or like this, or like this, probably like this. There we go. Yeah, so it's going to go like this right here. So you can see now some of the layers. Yeah, I know. Sophia and I are on the same wavelength. She says, you can put a marker dot on the upside for reference. Yeah, and when you bring them out of the package, if you mark them right away, then you're probably pretty good. But, you know, I didn't do that because I pulled it out and then I did this inking on it right away when it was like, whew, hadn't played with this one yet. So I've done this layer. I used this great stuff. Normally I would probably do that kind of stenciling last where you're going to put foil or whatever. But honestly, I did it first and now I know that it worked. And so it's not like I created the whole thing and then like, let's hope that I don't screw up the foil layer. so I think that it's super fun. Yeah, Cheryl says, we've got some serious creative vibes going on here, right? Yeah, it's all good. Okay, I need some colors. So I think because we're kind of going with leaves, I'm going to pick an aqua and I'm going to pick a green. And I think between the two of those, it's going to be beautiful. So I've got this. Oh, I need my little brushes. Okay, and I'm just going to use the colors that I have right out here. They're going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. So I've got my brushes. These are my Gina K brushes. I think they're brilliant. I'm going to get another set. Maybe not the Gina K ones, because I want different colored handles for my Distress Oxides, because you shouldn't mix them apparently. So I'm going to get another set. Maybe the Catherine Pooler. Her handle brushes are like teal and really pretty, like aqua. Ooh. So I've been thinking about getting those, but you know, I gotta sit down and order some stuff, man. Okay, so what are we gonna do? Are we gonna have little tiny teal, or are we gonna have, I think these will be better green. So I'm gonna do the teal here. We've got it on blue paper already, and so I'm gonna just lay this down in the corner. We've got that mark now. Oh, that's the one I've already got. That's the one I've already got. We're gonna lay this one down in the corner, and I'm gonna just use a little bit of tape, because if I don't tape it, you know what's gonna happen. Something's gonna slide, and then I'll be like, should have taped it. Should have taped it. Okay, so I'm gonna line that corner up, and then it's gonna be great. We're just gonna add our stuff. Now, is that taped enough? Probably. Okay, so I've got my blue brush. Any shades of aqua I will use on this same brush, as long as it's not my Distress Oxides. I don't really clean them in between. If I think that it's going to be loaded with a color that I maybe don't want on this one, I'm just going to pull out a piece of paper towel and like clean my brush off a little bit, like dry rub it on, and it'll be fine. So Gail says, I've shied away from layered stencils because they confuse me. Well, this should answer all the questions. Oh, look at this thing. It's in my face again. This tape is not holding up. Geez, Scotch tape, you're disappointing me. Okay, let's try again. I've got it like literally taped to my camera. Yes, the cords right now. Okay, so I'm going to use this Ocean Mist color from Gina K, and I'm just going to swipe it on, and I'm just going to rub it in here. Circular patterns, maybe doing a little bit of back and forth. You know, if you want different textures and stuff, we talked a lot about getting different textures on our Rainbow Day. So April 1st, go back to April 1st, and you can see that. But I'm just going to fill this in really quick because I just want to see it. I just want to see it. This is going to be so pretty. So let's get this one done, and then we'll see. But yeah, as long as you know the layers and get the layers in the right order, so easy and so fun. And I think that this kind of stuff transfers really good to scrapbooking. Like, I would not have a problem moving this over and doing it more to fit my scrapbook page, right? And I think from now on, when I do that, instead of planning to have like 3 sections, like 1, 2, and 3, like if it's a little bit short, right? This one's longer, so I wouldn't have to do as much. I would just plan to like cut that paper down and have a nice little frame around the edge so that I only have to do it twice, right? You know, it's a smart scrapbooker. I'm not going to call it lazy scrapbooking. I'm going to call it smart scrapbooking, right? That's kind of what I'm thinking of. So there we go. This this layer is done and it's gorgeous and beautiful. So I'm gonna peel those tapes and I will show you how it's all layered in there, all lovely. I can take this stencil and I'm just gonna give it a quick little wipe. I'm gonna spray it with, I'm gonna spray my paper before I get everything else all messed up. I'm just gonna give it a quick wipe, and then I might not even have to put it into my sink later. When you're using paper towel on these stencils, you might shred your paper towel. I'm just saying, like. So I tend to wash them in the sink more so because I don't want to like catch the little pieces, but for a quick little cleanup, we won't complain today. I will say that Sharpie may not always stay there. So at some point you may end up having to redo that Sharpie marking, but you know, that's life. That just means you're using your stencils, right? So that's never a bad thing. When we use our supplies, give yourself credit. It's like when you use a stamp and it's like dyed with the ink, you know, like reds are terrible for it. They dye your stamps and you're like, oh, it's all dyed. And then I look at it, I'm like, that means I used it. That means I used it. I used that stamp. So that's a good thing. Okay, so here I'm lining this up and you'll see a little bit of crossover with some of this. You can see a little bit of the foil, but I'm totally, I'm not worried about that at all. I think that's going to be fine. A lot of the layered stencils do have colors that cross over onto the next, and it just gives you nice layers. Like when I look at this flower, those little pinky marks in the middle are on top of the other pink. Sometimes it can make it a little confusing to line them up, but once you practice a little bit, it becomes okay. Cheryl says, so do you have a sink in your room? Have you ever done a craft room tour? So yes, I do have a sink in my scrapbook room. This is Lucky Clover, by the way. And I have an amazing room, and I did a tour a very long time ago. On my old blog. Like, it's so long ago, it's on my old blog. And I don't know if it's still up or if I've linked it anywhere else. Since then, I've changed a lot. I bought a lot of stuff, and I have a huge, huge mess in my scrapbook room. And so I have been shy about doing that. However, this year, I have finally found the joy in the magic of tidying up. Marie Kondo and I finally went click. And I have been going through stuff like crazy, cleaning up not only in my scrapbook room, but in my house. And actually, I've been tackling the house more so first, and the scrapbook room piece by piece. I just got some new bins to help me get a few things organized in here, and I am working on it. So that is the big plan. I want to do the full-on craft room tour that everybody's going to go, do you seriously have that? Because, like, I do. I have an amazing, amazing space. We built my dream home after I got through my cancer treatments. My husband and I talked, and he's like, well, let's just do it. And so we built our dream home, and I'm so fortunate and lucky, and yeah, it's amazing. But the clutter has made me feel, you know, overwhelmed, and, you know, it's time to do something about that. So I have been. So that is the plan. I will actually be doing a tour eventually once I get it just a little bit more dealt with. Right now it's just like, it's getting there. It's getting there. Cheryl says, huge mess equals you're actually using your room. Kind of. Like, I definitely use it. Oh, look at this. It's so pretty. Okay. The stenciling is so wonderful. Okay, so look at this. And obviously I'll trim the sides and whatever, but look at this. And even if I didn't continue it and do more with it, look at how you could cut this piece out. You can put that underneath part of like a photo layer, and you can have this peeking out from the side, right? Sophia says, good for you. It can be overwhelming to start clearing and sorting. Just starting is a big deal. Yes. And then, yeah, I've been diving into it. And then Fly Lady and I, we were going back to days of, of yore because I did Fly Lady years ago. And yeah, it's working. I'm getting everything cleaned up and I'm staying on top of things. It's like, who is this girl? So, someone pretending to have her life together. Oh, just look how pretty that is. Oh my gosh, I'm dying. This is so pretty. Okay, well, that is my first little example. And that is gorgeous. So let's, and that's with foiling, right? Some foiling. How much fun. Okay, so now we are going to try a different one. And I have not played with this one at all. Absolutely zero. And I'm so pumped. Where did I put that little thing? I'm going to clean this one off right now while we're here. We are going to switch to a different type of layered stencil. So this one is also from Pink Fresh Studio. Like I told you, I really, really like theirs. And I got this one, and I got some other pieces that go with this one. And I've been dying to do it, and I haven't pulled it out yet, so today is the no excuses day. Okay, so those are going to go over here. And let me show you. So here is this stencil, and you can see just how pretty it is. But you can also see all of the stuff. So the stencil actually, are there things you're getting rid of in your room? Oh yes, Donna, there are. This stencil has a lot of different pieces available with it. Not like, I don't think you could order a kit. Maybe at one time they did a kit. But yeah, this one is called In the Meadow. And I love the little trailing leaves. I love that there are separate little leaves. I love that you could just use it as is. And I did go ahead and bought the matching die so that you can cut it out. I also bought the matching stamp set so that you could stamp it and color it. And I also, okay, now this was like where I felt like, I'm like, are you going over the top here? I also bought the matching roll of washi tape. Now the cool thing about the washi tape is that it fits the die, and then you can just put the washi tape down, cut it out with the die, and be done, where you don't have to do anything else. Or you can stamp it and ink it, and then if you want to cut it out, then you can. Or you can use the stencils and ink them and maybe even add details and then still cut it out if you want to. So like, how beautiful, right? Yeah, I know. I loved their set. It is so gorgeous. Okay, let's go back to this for a second. Am I getting rid of things in my room? Yes. I used to be a Close to My Heart consultant for like 6-ish years. I did mostly workshops in my room. Actually, I never did an official party where I went to someone else's house. I only did workshops in my own room because that way I didn't have to pack stuff and everybody could just come to my clean space. Because back then I actually had one. Imagine that. Less people coming into my space means more Alice clutter around me. But more people coming here meant that my room had to be a little cleaner back then. And so, yeah, I did workshops on a regular monthly basis. We would set up clubs and you would come for 7 months. And one time you were the hostess and you got all the fun stuff. But I also bought stuff, and then I would go to a couple of shows and I would bring up like stuff and set up a table and whatever. So that was really fun until it wasn't, right? It was fun until it wasn't. And then I just wanted to use all the other things from all the other companies. And so that's what I did. Okay, we're going to grab a piece of paper. I'm going to grab one. And I think these ones are the same width as the other ones. This one has 5 pieces. I'm assuming these are going to be in the right order right now. Maybe. Should we see if that kind of makes sense? Oh, these ones are marked. Okay, so let me show you that. Oh, I love it when they're marked. So down here on the bottom, if I hold it just right, you can kind of see right here the little markings right on my finger and my terrible fingernails. You can see it says 2021 Pink Fresh Studio LLC. There's a little square or a little L in the corner. There's an L in this corner and this corner and this corner. And it says stencil number 1. And so when the writing is the right way up, you can see it. Now, if you can't see this very good, just take like a little marker or something or some pencil and kind of fill it in a little bit so you can read it a little bit better, because they're a little hard to see. It's etched just onto the surface of the stencil, but it gives you something to line up so that you can have it exactly lined up with the corners of your project. So, makes sense, right? So I'm going to cut down a paper to that size, and we're going to dive into the fun of this stencil. And I see that this layer here has leaves, but it also has florals. And I see that the way that they've colored it, so suggestions for the first go around, right? Or go ahead and do your own thing. They've done some of the leaves in the pink like their florals. So just a thought for maybe my first time around. Yeah, so I'm getting rid of things in the room. Sophia says I have a relative who's having to have a huge clear out, and they're finding amazing things, like my half-brother's school reports from the 60s and checkbooks from the 70s. I know. It's like, why do we save some of these things? I know. I stamped mine and then used the stencils and cut with the dies. They should have the number. Yeah, these ones have a number. The other ones that I had with the leaves, they didn't, but they were a lot easier to kind of figure out how they fit together. Okay, cutter, and I'm just gonna measure really quick to see exactly how wide they want that piece right here. From 3 to 3, and it's actually just under 3 3/4. So it's more like 3 5/8. But we can do that. So I'm just gonna cut it to that size. Let's make sure I did it right. And then, yeah, that looks good. And then we'll cut it to the length as well. And you wouldn't have to. You could line it up with different things, but like I have this right here, so why not just do it? This is 8 5/8. Okay, weird sizes. I'm sure it's meant for bigger, but I can always mat it onto bigger if I want it. So I'm just going to do it this size. Okay, so we have this, and I'm going to tape this down to my surface so that I can work. Oh, this keeps sliding. I'm so sorry, guys. It's going to be like this weird thing. It's like, it's the shortness of my cord today. But the camera at least is so much better than the one we had yesterday, so we will forgive it. We will forgive it. So stencil 1, I've got it the right way up, and I'm lined up those little marks in the corners, so that made it super easy to line up. And maybe a couple more pieces of tape, because a little extra tape is not bad. Sophia says I'm looking forward to seeing this one done. It looks super pretty. Me too. Okay. Colors. Are we gonna do pinks? Maybe? Pinks, maybe? I brought a red too, because it almost feels like we need a red. So this layer here on their sample, they did kind of a lighter pink. So I don't really have those plummy kind of more purpley pinks. I got my Gina K inks, so that's what we're using today. You know, it'll look similar but not exact. That's fine. I'm gonna go with my lighter pink. We'll see. If I don't like it, I can just layer another color. So I'm gonna start lighter and go a little bit darker. Sophia says they'll phone me up saying, "You won't believe what we just found." And I'll reply, to be honest, at this point, yes, I will, whatever it is. I love it. I love it. Yeah, well, just going through all of the stuff that I have in my own house, like why is this still here? Why do I have this? I found clothes that probably haven't fit me in 15 years. I'm like, how did those not make the cut yet? Like, how is it still in my house? And it's not like I've never purged my closet before. So, oh, I said the P word. I hate that word. I've never destashed. It's not like I've never destashed. I like that better. Never destashed my closet before. I totally have. And so as I do these, I'm trying to get a little more ink at the edges. So you'll see that I kind of work at these until I have a little more color around the sides. And depending on how much pressure, like these Gina brushes, if you just pick up your color and you go lightly in them, it's quite light, right? You can go pretty light, or you can apply a little more pressure in the head and get a little more depth in your colors. Okay, so let's see. The next layer, layer 2, looks like it is the green leaves. So those look like the green leaf layer. So I'm gonna leave that right now because I'd rather just kind of do the pinks first and then go to the greens. That just makes sense to me. These look like Stencil 3 is definitely more pinks. Now, one thing, if you don't have a ton of colors, it's totally okay. I'm just gonna leave this here, guys. I'm like not dealing with it right now. If you don't have a ton of colors, you can just go in and add more of that same color. You don't have to have a ton of colors. But if you have more colors, obviously you can go in and choose other shades. Now, I like this pink, but I'm actually going to take a little bit of this passionate pink and I'm going to add just little hits of it, just around a few spots. Not very much, but just to give me a slightly extra little bit of shade to my things, so that, you know, I haven't done all of it, but you kind of get like a little brushing of it. So, you know, you can add a little extra shading so that one part of your flower has a little more shade. You could kind of go the same on some of these little leafy areas. I think that stencils have more versatility than sometimes we think that they do. Okay, so now instead of doing pink on top for the details, right? So I'm talking about the little dark parts of these. Rather than do pink, I'm going to pull in my red color. Now the red is really red. It's really red. And so I'm hopping over to stencil number 3 because I want to do this piece first. If I hated it, whatever, flip your paper over and try again, right? Like, it's not the end of the world. But I think this will turn out really good. So now I'm going to slip this in here, line up those corners. So once you kind of have this all set up, then it's like super easy, right? Line up your corners. They have little marks, and pop your tape back on. Now there's a few extra little flower buds here that I took most of these off, but I didn't get them off the red yet. There's a few extra little flower buds that will turn out more red. So I'm just going to take my red and I'm going to go in here super light at first, just to kind of bring that in here. If I didn't like the look of the red, I could go a little more to the purple side. So we'll have a peek maybe here in a second and see what I think. That's why I'm just going light with this red, because I can always take it and turn it a little more pinky with a purple tone instead of a red tone. But you'll see that some of the sections are crossing over parts of the flowers, and Yeah, so the whole area. There's lots of tiny, tiny little markings. And at first, when you're trying to line it up, you're like, this doesn't line up with anything. But that's okay because you're adding that texture and shading to these layers. And you don't want them exactly lined up. Okay, so let's see if we like this. It's pretty. It's pretty. And if I want to try another one with some purple on it, I can. But this looks nice. Doesn't it look nice? I look like this great like colorer or something like that. And then you don't have to be great at coloring. Okay, so now we've got more layers. How many layers did I have of these ones? It says 5 pieces. Oh, and then there's, okay, so there's these leaves and those leaves. Oh, and then there's this. So this is like stencil number 4. What is this? Oh, flower centers. Okay, so you can see other flower centers. That's a great place to add some extra stuff, right? Extra stuff. So I'm thinking like we need to have some Nouveau paste or something shiny in there rather than just a color. Okay. Now we're gonna use some greens, but this Lucky Clover is super bright, so I think we're gonna turn back to our other greens for a second. Okay, so I'm gonna go with greens. I'm gonna try grass green and fresh asparagus so that it's a little less, wow, in your face, Lucky Clover is bright. I use it a lot when I rainbow ink, so it is a bright. So funny. You guys are so funny. Talking about all the saving of stuff. Waynell says, when my mom died in 2020, Daddy died in 2017, my younger sister and I went through everything to clean out and get some work done to be able to sell the house, and we found all kinds of things. I'm a lot like Mom. I don't throw much away. I've started going through things in my house since then, and I've really thrown away a lot. Not through, but it's an ongoing project. Yeah, Sophia says anything is better than not. And I think that's the thing that we do. We say, well, I'm not done. I haven't finished this. I didn't get this all. Like, we give ourselves a hard time about the things that we didn't do, that sometimes we just don't give ourselves enough credit for what we did do, right? We do the same thing with our scrapbooking. Oh, well, I didn't get this done. I didn't do that, and I haven't done that. But we didn't look and say, look at all the stuff that I did do. It's awesome. Sometimes we just need to give ourselves a little more credit. Okay, so this is grass green. I'm actually going to rub a little bit of this ink off to see what it's showing up. I think it's good. Just because I use that other green so much before I bring it in here. And you'll notice generally with my stencil, I try to go into a spot where there's nothing, and then I sweep the color into the spaces. That's just a way to make it so that when you come straight off the pad onto the thing, sometimes that can be very abrupt. Sometimes you want that look, that's totally fine. But lots of times, if you don't want that look, you can kind of sweep in from one of the solid spots on the stencil and then sweep your color into the stencil. And actually, I'm thinking that this would probably look really cool because the leaves are quite directional, right? When you look at a leaf, they have pointy parts generally. Like, I guess there's round leaves and stuff too, but these ones are pointy and they're kind of directional. So what if, once I fill in these colors, you know, so that it's kind of filled in, so you can tell where the leaves are here. What if I take some of that same color and swipe it a little bit, a little more direct, and swipe it in directions so that we get a little bit of that directional kind of effect from the leaves, right? And I think just like little things that we can do for our stencils like this can give us such a nice look when we're creating. And it's easy. Like, you don't have to be like super artsy to swipe ink in a direction, right? And there we go. Okay, so I think I got all of that. And it's kind of swiped, so we're going to go with that. So the grass green. I try to put my lids on right away because I'm the kind of person that'll end up mucking something up. So now we have that green on there. And now we're going to add the green highlights. So, yeah. Let's have a look here. So, Sophia says that her kids have threatened her because she doesn't save much of anything. Sophia says, my father has always been a hoarder. He went through a phase of harmoniums, like a piano-sized organ that you pedal through air through. Oh my gosh. When he came home with number 5, mother said, enough is enough, right? And she limited him to 3, which is still insane. No, I can see, like, if it's your thing, that's fine. Like, I'm going to challenge you. How many scrapbookers have more than one typewriter? Because I've seen it. I have 3. And typewriters are like extinct kind of stuff, guys. Like, we really don't need typewriters in this day and age, but we needed typewriters, right? Okay, so now I'm going to take this fresh asparagus, which is a slightly darker muted green, and I'm going to fill it in a little more aggressively in these open spaces that I have here on these leaves. These are the leaf highlights, or dark lights, low lights, I guess. Low lights. You call it in hair, right? So is that what they call it in coloring? I don't know. Like, I'm not a professional coloring person. Obviously, with a name like a professional coloring person. I don't even know the name. Let's just say I actually didn't even take that much art. Like, I didn't take art in high school. I took some in junior high, but I didn't have time for it in my schedule. I was busy doing other things, so it wasn't something that I even got to really do. So, and I always felt that I wasn't very artistic. I don't know about you guys, but art wasn't necessarily something that was highly encouraged for me growing up. It's not like I was like told don't do art, but art was something you do in your hobby time, but it's not like something you're going to have a job in. Right? Look at me now. I actually get to do scrapbook stuff for fun and a job. Oh, you guys, it's so pretty. So pretty. Okay. Well, that would just be lovely as is, right? But we know we have one more layer. We have one more layer. And this layer lines up with the centers of those flowers and looks amazing. So we are going, and not every flower, just some of them. So what we're going to do is we are going to grab something else. And I think this is part of the magic of using these layered stencils, is that it's a stencil. You can put anything through it, right? I only have my blue and my pink Nuvo paste, but because we haven't used the glacier paste, I'm going to grab the other one. I think I'm grabbing it. Oh my gosh. Where is that? Oh. Okay, so it's the centers of these little pink flowers, and I could go and use like white to make them bright and shiny, but I think using the darker pink would be lovely. So I think that's what I will do. I have a few shades of these Nuvo Glaciers, and I tell you, I hope they never dry up because I love them. I love them. Okay, so I've got a little palette brush or knife right here. And this stuff, if you haven't used it, like, look how soft and creamy that is. Like, it's so soft and creamy. It's just lovely. And you don't need very much for something like this. There's only a few little holes. So I'm going to go and I'm going to cover in those little holes. that are on here. And then my biggest problem is going to be making sure that I don't ruin it after I have got all this on here by smearing it once I lift it all off, right? That's like the biggest problem. Anytime you use mucky stuff, it's like, how do I not get it on everything? Okay. Did I cover all the little holes in really good? I think so. I don't see any other ones. Okay, so that looks good. Just smear that back in here. And that wasn't hard. If that's mixed media, guys, we just did mixed media. It took like 1 second. Doesn't have to be hard and scary. Now I'm just wiping this off. This glacier paste has mica in it, and it's like really, really ground up and fine. So if you look at this really closely right now, I've wiped it off, but it is like still got some sparkle on it. So just so you know, that sparkle stuff will come with you forever. And now I've lifted this off. It's beautiful. It has just like a little bit. This stuff washes off of stencils really nicely, so it's not a big deal. And I'm going to hold this up and show you just how gorgeous this is. Now, if I wanted to do this on a layout, I could totally make this into my scrapbook paper. In fact, I could see doing this all the way down on part of it, where at the bottom, I just take a few little pieces and trickle across the bottom of the page, kind of work it all the way down. Oh, actually, that's a really fun idea. Look how pretty that is. And actually, I'm looking in the center of this flowers, and I kind of almost want a little bit more of that little stuff, right? Like, but I know better than to do that right now. However, I might take a little bit of glitter glue and throw that in the centers. That could be pretty. So nice. Oh my gosh. Layered stencils. They're amazing. And I can't believe it. We've taken all this time. What I'm going to do right now is we're going to wrap this up. But when this dries, I'm going to run it through my cutter. Is it going to cut properly? Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to cut properly. I'll have a look. Anyways, we're going to run it through my cutter if that's going to work properly. If not, then I won't. And I'll just use this separately. But yeah, maybe we'll revisit a little bit of this tomorrow. And I'll get to play with this washi tape. So fun. But look, for now, just how pretty this is. I love it. I love it. Okay, well, this was super fun. I feel like I'm missing something in the middle of these leaves. Does it not feel like it's missing something? Did I miss something on my stencil? I'll have to have a look back. It feels like I'm missing a line in the middle of these leaves. Did I miss something on a stencil? I could have. Okay, so I'll have a look. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been so much fun. Let's go back here. What is this? That is not what I wanted. There we go. I'll just unplug this one. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this happy at home session. I'm hoping that you're looking at layered stencils and you're like, okay, those are cool and I could totally do that, right? Because if I can do it, you see, I didn't do anything special. I am not doing anything special. I'm just looking at the options, and these have so many options for how we can play with them and how we can take them from card making over to scrapbooking. And it's just really pretty. And you know, I can take this fun design now. I could do this with different colors. I could use like some teal leaves. I could use some yellow leaves. I could use orange leaves. I could do like all the different colors. And you can also just like make some of the pieces to kind of do what I did with this layout, right? You can take some of that and just use it as a little subtle background for what you're creating. So layered stencils can be a lot of fun. Obviously, we can use them with different mixed media. We can also use them with foils to make beautiful effects. And I think that it's just a really fun, reusable tool to have in our stash. If I was buying some right now and you're like, "Whoo, what do I do?" I would definitely consider the ones from Pink Fresh Studio. I like that most of them are marked in the way that I showed you on these ones because that helps you kind of line up the layers. Even the ones that aren't marked, though, they're usually not marked because they're somewhat easy to manage. Um, there are other companies that sell them. I think Altenew has them. I know that Gina K has some. I've been seeing more and more of them hitting the market. And I think it just gives us a way to expand our creativity, gives us a new tool to play with, which are super fun. If you want to have a look at some of these ones, I will go and link these ones on my favorite page. So that will be linked right underneath this video already. So it's scraphappy.org/faves in case you're like, this one, what was it called? What was it? It's In the Meadow from Pink Fresh Studio. And it's the one that has all of the matching little pieces. So maybe we'll explore more of those little pieces tomorrow as we continue to play with, where the stenciling has led us. And we can play with the stamps and we can play with some of the other stuff tomorrow. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you would like to check out some of the fun stuff that I post on my Instagram, you can check that out at Alice Bowl. And you can also sign up for my email list if you're not yet. Then that is scraphappy.org/subscribe. And you can do that. Speaking of subscribing, I always forget. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I would be really happy about that because then you can get the notifications of when I'm doing live things like this or when I post videos. I really try to make the things that I post something that is going to help bring you like just a little step forward every time that you're scrapbooking. So recently I posted a video about stamping, and the stamping video had some really fun techniques in it, and I really try to bring that so it's like, oh, I haven't thought of doing that, or oh, I've seen that before but I haven't tried that yet, or I haven't done that in a million years, so maybe I should try that now. And that's the kind of stuff that I love. So yeah. The typewriters, I know. Rhinestones in the center, says Cheryl. Thank you. That's perfect. That would be perfect. I would love it. So shiny. Yeah, Vicky says the Pink Fresh are easy to use too. So that sounds great. Just thank you for being here today. Thank you for taking the time in your day to spend with me. You're totally a star. And I'm glad that we had this chance. If you're watching the replay, then there are more replays that you can check out as part of this series here on my YouTube channel for the Scrap Happy. Just look for the Happy at Home playlist. There's also a playlist for tutorial videos and for the scrapbook live sessions. If you just want to turn on something where I'm scrapbooking for a while and chatting, then those are great to kind of keep you company while you're crafting as well. So I just want to say thank you so much, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Happy scrapping, everyone.